Hi everyone, I'm Andy, and this is the AI Breakdown. Welcome to your weekly news edition where I'll cover what happened in AI last week and why it matters. Let's start with what I think is the clearest signal of where enterprise AI is heading. Accenture has just signed a deep strategic collaboration with OpenAI. They're rolling out ChatGPT Enterprise to what they describe as tens of thousands of consultants and professionals across the firm. On top of that, they're plugging into OpenAI's certification program, so those people aren't just poking at a chatbot, they're being actively trained to use frontier models in real client work. The two companies have also launched a flagship AI client program that basically bundles OpenAI's models with Accenture's industry and functional expertise. The aim is pretty direct. Take legacy processes in things like customer service, supply chain, finance, HR, and turn them into AI-powered workflows. Julie Sweet, Accenture's CEO, framed it as combining OpenAI's breakthrough tech with Accenture's domain knowledge to accelerate enterprise reinvention and business outcomes. And OpenAI's Fidji Simo said that putting ChatGPT in the hands of those tens of thousands of people should help clients move faster and generate real economic value. The signal here is that big consulting is repositioning itself as the long-term AI transformation partner. You won't just be buying strategy decks and slideware, you'll be buying teams who are expected to show up with AI agents in their toolkit from day one. The open question, of course, is how quickly those consultants can really change how they work. But this is one of the boldest bets we've seen from a legacy firm so far. Sticking with OpenAI, there was another interesting move that's a bit more behind the scenes, but really matters if you work in traditional services. OpenAI has taken an ownership stake in Thrive Holdings, which is basically a roll-up platform for accounting and IT services firms. The deal's non-monetary. OpenAI is putting in a dedicated research team and tech support, and in return it gets equity upside. Thrive has raised about $1 billion to buy up service firms that serve over 10,000 customers. When they tried to use off-the-shelf AI, they ran into problems much sooner than expected. As Thrive partner Anuj Mendirata put it, generic models were insufficient for complex domain-specific tasks. So this partnership is about building customized systems, think reinforcement learning tuned to real bookkeeping, auditing, and help desk workflows. In early pilots, one accounting firm reportedly saved hundreds of hours by automating parts of its processes with these tools. That's the upside. On the flip side, not everyone is convinced. TechCrunch called it part of OpenAI's pattern of circular deal-making, where it provides AI, gets equity, and then benefits from the value it helped create. Some critics are asking whether these deals are really about building robust, independent businesses or just pumping the broader OpenAI ecosystem. For you and me, the practical takeaway is this. If you're in a specialized domain, you probably won't get world-class results from generic AI out of the box. There's growing evidence that serious gains come from deep integration, domain-specific tuning, and frankly, rolling your sleeves up with your vendors. The OpenAI Thrive tie-up is an example of that playbook. From spreadsheets to video now. At AWS reInvent, TwelveLabs launched Marengo 3.0, their new video foundation model that now runs on Amazon Bedrock. The claim is that it understands full scenes rather than just individual frames, which means it can index, search, and extract insights from video in a much more human way, tracking objects, faces, actions over time. The headline numbers are pretty striking. Marengo 3.0 can cut video storage requirements by around 50% and double the speed of video indexing compared to previous approaches. Given that CEO Jay Lee says video represents about 90% of digitized data, that's a lot of dark data suddenly becoming usable. Why does this matter in the real world? Think about retailers sitting on mountains of CCTV, sports organizations with years of match footage, media libraries, call centers recording every Zoom call, safety and compliance footage in factories. Up to now, getting value from that has meant expensive manual review or very crude analytics. With something like Marengo 3.0 plugged into AWS, you can suddenly ask questions of your video. Show me every time a queue formed beyond a certain length. Find all incidents where someone entered a restricted zone. Surface clips where a competitor's logo appears. Index training sessions by the drills being run. If you're building SaaS, it's a reminder there's still huge opportunity in video-first products. And if you're on the enterprise side, you might want to revisit old assumptions about what's actually searchable inside your organization. Let's flip back to more obvious software use cases with Lyft. Lyft has built what they call an AI intent agent for drivers using Anthropic's Claude model through AWS. In plain English, it's a support assistant that drivers can talk to in English or Spanish to get instant answers about the app, payments, policies, all the everyday stuff that used to mean waiting in a support queue. The result? Lyft says it's cut support resolution times by 87%. That's a real operational metric that matters to drivers and to Lyft's bottom line. There are two reasons I think this is worth paying attention to. One, it shows agentic AI, systems that don't just chat, but actually help resolve tasks, is maturing fast in frontline operations. Two, it's a clear template lots of other companies can follow. If you run any sort of marketplace, logistics network, or large field workforce, you almost certainly have the same pattern. Tons of repetitive, policy-based questions, plus a small tail of complex edge cases. An AI agent can chew through the bulk, and your human team focuses on the weird stuff. So if you're still stuck at the let's add a chatbot to the homepage stage, take this as a challenge. Go where the latency and frustration is highest and solve that first. From rideshares to cars themselves, Nissan used reInvent to show off its scalable open software platform, SOSP, built on AWS. The idea is to treat cars like cloud-connected devices. Developers can write, test, and validate software for things like infotainment or driver assist features in the cloud, then ship those updates over the air to actual vehicles. Kazuma Sugimoto, who leads Nissan's software-defined vehicle program called SOSP Key Technology, that enables us to rapidly deliver innovative value to customers. In practical terms, that means faster feature rollouts, more consistent software across models, and a much more agile way of iterating on what the car can do once it's left the factory. Zooming out, this is part of the broader shift to software-defined vehicles. Instead of thinking of a car as frozen at the point of sale, it becomes a platform you can keep improving. For buyers, that might mean better safety features arriving via update or new integrations in the dashboard. For developers and partners, it opens the door to building services that actually live across the vehicle fleet. If you build SaaS, this should feel quite familiar. Automakers are basically reinventing themselves as platform companies, and cloud providers like AWS are the new operating layer. The interesting question is how quickly they can learn to ship software with the cadence you'd expect from a tech company, not a traditional OEM. Switching to commerce, there was a big acquisition that flew under the radar a bit, but says a lot about where digital experience platforms are headed. Rezolve AI, which focuses on AI-powered commerce, is acquiring Crownpeak for $90 million and taking on about $150 million of its debt. Crownpeak brings in roughly $70 million a year in revenue from big-name clients like Sephora and Tommy Hilfiger, plus a mature CMS and digital experience stack. Rezolve's pitch is that by plugging its brain commerce AI, things like conversational shopping, agent-led checkout, and smarter search, into Crownpeak's platform, brands can turn fairly static websites into active sales agents. CEO Daniel Wagner called Crownpeak a powerhouse asset at fantastic value and pointed out he actually built the core tech originally, so he knows both the product and the customer base. The market reaction was more cautious. Rezolve stock dropped around 7.5% on the news, with investors clearly nervous about the debt load and integration risk. My read: strategically this makes sense and it validates the idea that AI isn't a bolt-on widget anymore. It's becoming part of the core web stack. But execution is everything. This is a reminder that while roll-ups can accelerate your roadmap and distribution, the financial markets will absolutely punish you if they think you've overpaid or can't integrate cleanly. Staying with commerce for a moment, AWS and Visa announced a partnership aimed squarely at what they're calling agentic commerce. Basically AI agents that can not only recommend things but actually pay for them. Visa's new intelligent commerce platform is now on the AWS marketplace, and AWS is publishing open source blueprints via its Bedrock Agent Core repo. These blueprints are reference architectures for common workflows like travel booking or retail shopping, wired up to Visa's payment rails. Scott Mullins from AWS described it as providing pre-built frameworks and standardized infrastructure to eliminate major development barriers. Visa's Rubail Burwatker said bringing the platform to AWS should help unlock faster innovation for developers and better experiences for consumers and businesses worldwide. Why does this matter? Because one of the biggest blockers to true AI assistance has been, how do you safely let them transact? If you're a developer or founder, you no longer have to invent that plumbing from scratch. The coordination logic and payment connections are increasingly coming off the shelf. We're still early. There are going to be big questions around governance, limits, and user control, but this is clear groundwork for a future where book the trip or reorder stock really means an agent is the whole thing end to end. Now, you might be listening to all of this and thinking, sounds great, Andy, but in the real world, our AI projects keep stalling, and you'd be in very good company. CompTIA just surveyed over 1,100 US businesses and found that while 82% expect measurable ROI from AI, a hefty 79% have actually backtracked on at least some AI initiatives and gone back to human processes. The top reasons were underperforming models, difficulty scaling AI to more complex tasks, integration headaches, and projects where the costs ended up outweighing the benefits. Only about 37% of companies said they've broadly integrated AI into operations, and most still don't mandate AI training for staff. Tim Herbert, CompTIA's chief researcher, described the situation as 2 steps forward, 1 step back, and argued that's actually a healthy dynamic. I think that's the key lens. The hype cycle would have you believe everyone else has already automated half their business with a weekend of prompt engineering. This data says the opposite. Most firms are still very much in the experimentation and learning phase. If you're leading AI work, the lesson is to get real about planning, integration, and change management. The tech is powerful, but it doesn't magically glue itself into your systems or your culture. The companies that win here won't necessarily be the ones with the flashiest demos. They'll be the ones that can take those 2-step forward, 1-step back loops and keep iterating without losing their nerve. And finally, a quick one that points to where agentic AI might be headed next. Wired reported that Project Prometheus, an AI venture co-led by Jeff Bezos with billions in funding behind it, quietly acquired a startup called General Agents. Their flagship tool, ACE, is basically a software pilot that can operate your computer for you, browsing, downloading, sending files, and stitching together actions across different apps based on a high-level command. The deal wasn't loudly announced, but the founders who previously worked at places like DeepMind and Tesla have now been folded into Prometheus. Why does this matter? Because it shows how seriously well-funded players are taking agentic computing, not just chatbots in a browser tab, but full-on agents that can drive your operating system. Think less answer my question and more prepare the client update pack from the latest data, file it, and send it to the team. We're still a way off that being reliable enough to just let loose on a corporate network, and there are huge safety and governance questions. But if you're planning your product or your career around AI, it's worth tracking these moves. Today's browser-based helper could easily become tomorrow's desktop coworker. That's all for this week's AI Roundup. If you found value in this breakdown, please leave a rating and hit subscribe to see you next week.